This is episode 8 of Building in the Trenches podcast. This is Sam.
This is David.
And we are having a fantastic time. It's a beautiful Sunday, and we are really, really excited to talk to you guys about, what we've been up to and what the trenches are looking like. So overall, David, tell me a little bit more about how was your week and how's everything else?
Yeah, week's been good. Came back from a long kind of travel session, as you guys know. So now I'm starting on. Actually, this Thursday I started actually preparing. We got the CPA course and putting in the hours slowly and ramping up. Tomorrow's gonna be like an actual work day and also balancing hopefully around logging in 4 hours. And then hopefully my exam date's gonna be by the end of this month. I'm gonna try to be kind of ambitious and then shoot for the stars. And hopefully we'll be able to pass 4 exams if it goes all smooth sailing. But you're gonna see me grinding a lot as we kind of discussed in the prior podcast. So just been grinding on that. And then, obviously we have some updates to share to y'all as well based on what I'm planning on doing with the acquisition process.
That's actually pretty exciting. And stuff on my end, I have been in a little bit of a limbo in terms of my projection. The thing is with on the B2B side of things, unfortunately, things just move so slow that sometimes it's very easy to get distracted from your eventual goal. And that's basically what I'm fighting right now. As I'm waiting for the enterprise deals to basically go through and all the process to go through, I am, just wondering, hey, what my life kind of looks like after that. And, I have realized that, hey, I'm going to go all into the direct-to-consumer brand that I have just created. I was able to redesign a landing page for that this week. And unfortunately, it was a new theme that came out from Shopify. And it's supposed to be, the all-in, all-in class,
right.
with AI and everything. Unfortunately, it was horrible.
Which led to how much in lost revenue? Let's share that out.
Probably, yeah. So it was around $1,500 in lost revenue over the last couple of weeks, and then it was only because I tweaked it.
Mm-hmm.
I tweaked it, and it's just it was kind of horrible. And I also gave Google bad signals because you click on it,
right.
even though it was ranking up in my Google Search Console. I'm like, oh, why am I just losing crazy amount of impressions? It's because when you click into a website, you don't get what you want and click right back.
Right.
Google's like, oh, this website is not.
The bounce rate. The higher it is, the worse it is, right?
Yeah.
Ideally, you want to make sure the bounce rate is very, very low.
Yeah.
And the average time spent on page is kind of long. That's how you game SEO, right?
Uh-huh. Yeah. So again, even though I'm running some bots just to make sure I'm able to game that, unfortunately, this I just didn't see it coming. So lots of issues over there, but today I was actually finally able to redesign everything. It's funny. I actually woke up this morning. I was like, oh yeah, I fixed the original theme. I woke up this morning. I was on my walk and I was like, oh my god, this thing is down again. This is horrible. This time around I didn't go super crazy. I was like, I'm gonna cut my walk short and I'm gonna spend this Sunday trying to figure out what the vibes are gonna be looking like. So overall, going all in into that true classic model, just trying to sell as many t-shirts, like men's t-shirts, which is my highest selling SKU, and I'm just gonna double down on that and try to basically not be an all-in fashion brand right now. Just pick one
Just
SKU.
find the hero part. We're essentially doing a drop shipping model for yourself.
Yeah.
Because look at all the best brands. You said all of them started with one SKU.
Yeah.
Kind of their hero product. Can you name a couple for kind of the trenchers?
Yeah, absolutely. Even True Classic and Comfort. Comfort is actually one of the bigger ones that did around $200 million in sales.
I see
all from
so
TikTok.
Much from TikTok Live.
It's all TikTok.
Really?
They were the first apparel brand to basically
really take
go
it seriously.
Yeah.
Where other companies were kind of lacking on it. Comfort was this is where the attention's at.
Yeah.
This is where Gen Z and millennials are kind of spending their time on.
Yeah.
Let's just double down on it. There were so many content creators. I don't know if they were on retainers, but they were just literally 24 hours talking about Comfort t-shirts in a warehouse, just making it very catchy for people to kind of convert very easily.
Yeah, it's insane. $200 million when I saw the number.
That is so insane.
And it's all from TikTok. That's the crazy part.
Yeah. We talked about it before. I don't know with the trenchers, but we talked about Jimmy Farley. This is a guy that I've been kind of watching from the sidelines. But essentially, he graduated, I think it was somewhere. Was it not,
Arizona State or something?
No, it's like in California. It's like it's considered like USC rejects. That's where people go. I don't know what it's called. Anyway, this guy in college, he was a hustler. He kind of had a bar as well, like within his dorm room. He was just hustling at a young age. But essentially, he made this thing called Creators Corner.
Yeah.
Essentially, what it does is it allows like content creators who, let's say, have art skills or like that are like fishermen or whatnot, and they build it so that they build personal brands on top of their existing skill sets. So,
Yeah.
for example, if you're really good at art skills,
Yeah.
you would use that as a funnel to sell art supplies.
Damn.
On TikTok Shop. Or like if you're really good at like fishing, there's so much fishing gear and drop shipping goods that you could import from China.
Yeah.
And then they make it like once you get approved, it's very easy to sell on TikTok Shop.
Jeez.
So you leveraging like the skill set and the monetization of the community that they have, they're capitalizing upon that audience by just connecting through like a product that they're already showcasing essentially.
That is pretty insane. I mean, again, now that I am like dabbling a little bit more into Facebook ads, I
Right.
realize that the main source, especially in the age of AI right now, is just creative.
Oh, yeah.
And
I
again,
agree.
it's this: how are you going to source creative? UGC people. I mean, you can still do AI. AI is still not there, but I think overall, like that's where these guys come in.
It's the
If you're-
taste. I mean, we were just like laughing yesterday talking about Johnny Ive's deal.
Yeah.
Johnny Ive, by the way, if you guys don't know, he's an Apple designer. He's the one that worked with Steve Jobs to kind of design our iPhones, any like Apple products you see. Johnny Ive was kind of like the lead designer in creating that. And just because he has such good taste, he actually partnered up with Sam. I think he launched his company maybe in 2023, 2024. Essentially, it took him just a year to sell his company under over $8 billion to OpenAI to launch a hardware product. But that's like the biggest fumble for Apple if you think about it, because Apple, like they had John Ivey, like literally the person who made our iPhone, like it's a
Yeah.
hardware technology. And what ChatGPT and OpenAI is trying to do is they're trying to reduce like what Apple phone, because they're trying to get into the hardware space.
Yeah, I mean, just like a glass. It's funny. Someone was saying, "Hey, I mean, these phones are unnecessary. It's just gonna become a screen,
Oh, for
or
sure.
like even glasses or
Think
something."
about how much revenue I think like what's it called, like the Meta's VR glasses
Yeah.
are doing, and then also Snapchat, they're also like tapping into that space. I'm pretty sure Google's also, back in the days, they were also testing it out. So I believe that's why there's so much money like being invested in virtual reality.
Yeah.
Because once the product becomes so good enough, like then it would just be hey, like, just like scrolling through, just using like the physical space to actually use your computer.
It's
Like,
actually
scroll.
funny because I know like 3-4 years ago, Mark Zuckerberg just went all in into, hey, metaverse is the next
yeah.
big thing. And unfortunately, I think he was just too early.
Yeah.
He was right.
Yeah, for sure.
He was just a little too early. And I was like, oh my God, like this dude spends so much money in the metaverse.
Yeah.
And like it's not happening.
That
but-
reminds me of like the technology curve, like for example, like when everything, like there's a huge hype cycle. So I believe, have you heard of Steph Smith before?
Yeah.
So she worked at The Hustle with Sam Parr, literally like grew that insanely, and now I think she's leading
A16Z?
like A16Z,
Yeah.
and now she's doing growth at some like other huge firm right now.
Jeez.
But essentially, one of the things she talked about was like the Gartner cycle. So
Uh-huh.
it's essentially a tech cycle. So for example, like maybe 10 years ago, there was a huge boom in hearing aids, but it was too early because at that point, like the costs were kind of like too expensive. But now with
Got it.
D2C, they got approval. Now like it's much more cheaper so that everybody could have like hearing aids like over the counter.
Damn.
And another thing was 3D printing. Back in the days, 3D printing was very, very expensive.
Yeah.
But these days, you could literally have a 3D printer for a couple $100.
eBay one, yeah.
Exactly. So, I mean, you see a lot of crazy things, like crazy parts that are being 3D printed. I'm sure like you've seen like crazy clips of maybe like apartments being 3D printed,
Yeah.
like at large scales. But as the cost goes down, like you might think it's too early, but as the costs go down, like there's actual opportunity to build like something with it using 3D technology or even within the multiverse area.
Yeah, I mean, what you're talking about here in terms of technology upgrading. Me myself, I got into the business of direct-to-garment printing, which was
Right.
the main like thing that hey, you're able to just print T-shirts without doing it at scale. So that was a big technology, and 5 years went by. And like now screen printing, which is the main printing technique for the last 20 years, it has just been disrupted because the cost is low and you're able to do, one-off like t-shirt printing,
Right.
which is pretty insane.
Right.
And that is disrupting the entire, lots of small businesses are going to go under if they don't do this or if they don't have like, realistically speaking, I think that the industry itself is dying just because a lot of these guys, they're blue collar workers. They're not really going to understand or they're not going to move fast enough in order to get to these customers. And even still to this day, there's a lot of quoting system goes on, like, hey, like, can I call you? Like, oh, can I have 20 t-shirts? Oh, can you email me this artwork? And I'm just like, all you have to do is just go to printfits.com. You can upload this, and you can. I mean, we can make this so much easier for you, and still do it at a pretty high quality. And that's kind of the market that we're kind of tackling on.
Right.
We did have a pretty good month on PrintFits, so kind of means that just the network effect.
Right.
The longer the business kind of stays around, the longer we're like, oh yeah, the network effects just keep it growing without us having to touch it too much. So that's kind of that. But that was my example.
Speaking of which, like, of network effects, let's kind of dive into like other like communities that we've been like looking at. I think recently there was like the F1. I don't know which location it was in, but I feel like these sports brands, their multiples are going huge, mainly because of the network effects.
Yeah.
Like, for example, like yesterday, I think I told you about like a friend that I met, the French man.
Yeah.
He's working as like an intern like in Venice. But one of the things he was mentioning was like how big, like, for example, soccer was up in France. Like, for example, they had a game that won like 5-0 recently against like another country, and the people were going wild. He was showing me like Instagram videos of just people just wilding out. So like the amount of like sheep mentality that these people have of like being bought into a community, and the LTV of these brands are just exorbitant, because some of, like, for example, Ryan Reynolds bought Arkham, the football company, and it's going on a generational run. I think he bought it at $20 million. Now it's evaluated, I believe, almost like hundreds of millions of dollars. So he literally like 10x'd literally from purchasing a soccer team that wasn't really doing that well. Like, it's literally a documentary, and he had made a Netflix documentary, so of course like there's that media growth, and I mean, it's just phenomenal.
I think it's just cults.
Yeah.
I feel like it's the thing is, as we were talking earlier, that number one, a lot of people are being less and less religious because they're like, hey, a lot of people are saying, hey, religion is a scam.
Right.
Because again, a lot of these people have manipulated people over so many years, and now people are kind of smartening up. They're like, hey, realistically speaking, it's not really making a lot of sense to me, and that's why they're kind of just. Especially with the internet and all this information out there, I think people are just more and more people are atheists.
Yeah.
But again, humans in general, they do need some sort of community, and for years and years, and generations, like, church used to be that thing. Just all the religion itself used to be that thing. And nowadays they don't have it. That's why they're catering towards smaller niche communities that they kind of,
vibe with. Like, that's why we see run clubs doing well. We've been talking about that, like, here and there. We've seen like High Rocks, or like these kind of niche events, whether it be like a physical thing, whether it be like a spiritual, like holistic thing. We see a lot of like these people like yearning for communities. Like, I'm just pulling up a chart like of some statistics that we're coming across like lately in detail of like how young men are falling behind from women in college and the workspace. Like, there's huge disparities right now. These are potential opportunities that you could build communities upon. For example, in the US, for every 100 men enrolled in college, roughly 140 women are enrolled. That's
crazy.
Not only that, women make up 60% of bachelor's and master's degrees as of 2023 data. In 22 metropolitan cities, young women now out-earn men in under 30 years old. Not only that, in New York City, young women under 30 years old earn 102 cents for every 100 cents earned by men. They literally out-earn men in New York City.
What the hell?
New York City is so expensive to live in. In Washington, D.C., young women under 30 earn 108 cents for every 100 cents earned by men. Main labor force participation is now at the lowest since 1950s.
So what's going on? Why are men not earning, or like either they're not working?
I think there's a lot of distraught, like a lot of people believing that they're kind of behind. I think COVID does have a big factor into that.
Yeah.
Because especially when COVID happened, I saw that like test scores were just plummeting.
Yeah.
But also there's a huge disparity between like political ideologies. I saw that like women are becoming more liberal and then men are becoming more conservative.
Yeah.
Right? I don't know if it's also like the majors, and also the loneliness epidemic, I think, is very true. Like, as you mentioned, like church gave them a sense of community and like some higher power.
Yeah.
Like, for example, I'm reading a book called like I'm rereading it. It's called The Search for Meaning by Viktor Frankl. He's essentially a Holocaust survivor, and he was a psychoanalyst, like essentially just a what's the right word? Psychologist, but he practices in like logotherapy, which is like using your conscious, like questioning and building meaning essentially within your life, even when things look very, very bleak. Because like there's people who like are in the concentration camps. They don't know if they're going to be living or dying at that day. Because literally, when you enter into the concentration camp, they do left or right. Left means you go to the gas chambers. Right means you're going to be working as like a slave. So like within that scenario, like he talks about how like, you know, there's people who have like a higher power, like that they believe in, of like whether it be like someone that they love unconditionally or like a higher power, like a god that they look up to, which gives them purpose, right? But like these days, I don't know what people like look up. I mean, I feel like a lot of men, especially, we looked at OnlyFans data of like one of the best cash flowing companies, you know, of all time. I feel like I don't know what they're praying to, but definitely not God. So I don't know. I feel like the loneliness epidemic is very true. Like it's very hard for people to build relationships. I think like just like whether it be cold approaching after college too. Like I feel like
after college is insane. Like you can't meet people after college. Like how do you do that?
Exactly. Like I mean, even in corporate, like I'm working at, obviously as like a 9-to-5er. All my people, like all the people that I'm surrounded by, there are people my age, but it's just different. It's just, I mean, it depends on the work environment, like who you choose to work with. So I feel like lifestyle design is very important. Like that's kind of like what Tim Ferriss says is like where you work, or I know that's more Naval, like where you work with, where you work, who you marry, like, and then who you work with. I think those three are like very, very important. But for me, I feel like most people just enter into the workforce, not really like thinking about that. And you know, it's just hard to build relationships right after college because like you're moving to different cities and like you have to build a new environment. Catching time is very more precious as well. It's very different. Whereas college, you're having the same classes. I was like, oh yeah, you see the same guy. So easy. You know, go eat together, go gym together.
I know.
So it's I feel like I mean maybe that is one of the things. Just like by people growing up, I guess in a metropolitan city, maybe that's why it's like harder. But like these statistics are just wild to think about, you know?
Those are really wild, and I feel like that does, you know, tell you that, hey, I mean, I know Greg Eisenberg, he always says, hey, he doesn't really talk to a lot of people. And he gets to, you know, basically live half of his life, half of his year in the middle of the woods just because he has an audience. He can still interact with all these people. And that's exactly where today's sponsor comes in. It is Glow. This is a great drink that we have right here. And this is also a moment for you guys to go ahead and click the subscribe button and like this video and comment down below if you have any questions. So let's go ahead and, David, let's go ahead and
Cheers to Glow.
Cheers to Glow. Let's go ahead and do a taste test.
That is fresh. That is
man, yeah, very, very nice stuff here. Today we're doing Tiger's Blood right here. So yeah, this is an unpaid sponsorship right now. We just sponsored ourselves. But
this is how you do it, boys. Ladies and gentlemen, we just officially sponsored ourselves. Glow, please don't sue us if you're watching this video. This is for entertainment purposes only. We're not getting paid. We just love the product so much. Actually, this is also sponsored by Costco as well. We got these glasses at Costco. #1 Kirkland brand. Yeah, we love the brand. It's good. Love their hot dogs. Love their gasoline.
So overall, you know, great times over here. But yeah, don't forget to subscribe and like this video, by the way. So all right, let's get back into it.
Right. So what we're discussing, we're talking about what's going on with like the loneliness epidemic. Why is there so many changes? I feel like one of the changes why we see women increasing like their college enrollment rates, I mean, it's because obviously women are also capable of like going into higher education, and then as policies are changing from less traditional, like it was very traditional back in the days, to more kind of open policies, and you know, like after the Me Too movement and whatnot, I feel like women have a lot of opportunities, but also a crazy one is birth control. Think about the contraceptives. Like now, like people would prefer, you know, instead of like prioritizing family at a young age, they focus more on their careers. So, I mean, I feel like that's kind of one of the reasons why we see so many people going into the workforce.
So let's go ahead and analyze, you know, where there is opportunity, especially for the trenchers listening to this right now, this deep in the video. I mean, if more women are going into, you know, more colleges, as we know from retail, women are more receptive to, buying random stuff. They're less rational when it comes to, purchasing stuff. So do you believe there's opportunity to sell them info products, especially to help them with certain courses?
I believe like relationship courses, I feel like there's a huge need. I've met a couple like dating coaches, especially in like metropolitan cities for like 30-year-olds, because these people, some of them, like especially if they're very focused on their building their careers, they don't really have that much like experience, as we kind of alluded to. After college, it's kind of hard to build genuine like relationships outside of work. We're not talking about just like meeting up with your colleague. We're talking about just like intimate like relationships. I feel like if you're able to create that, I think we actually did talk about, there was a guy who, he's a serial entrepreneur. I think he was on the podcast My First Million. As a guest, or like Sam talked about it, where it's an app where you meet, it's a dinner with 3 random strangers. I don't know what the name escapes us, but it's international now, and I think it was doing like 100 million in revenue the last time I was checking, and I was getting targeted Instagram ads, and it looked very, very good. It seemed like a good time of just 3, because there's a huge need for these people. That working professionals that want to meet and like build genuine relationships outside of just networking.
It's actually funny you mentioned that, because I think down in Koreatown, I saw there's this app called, I don't know if it's an app or it's a website. It's called 222.place.
Okay.
It's basically specifically for Asians. And they're like, hey, meet other Asians. And they put a billboard up in Koreatown, and they're basically charging for these like meetups. So they basically just broke off a piece of the business that Sam was talking about, and
bundling, it's kind of like the Craigslist thing of like, there's so many in Craigslist, there's so many different categories that you could do. So there's one for Muslim, there's one for Christian, there's one for like different races, because the culture is very, very different. So as long as you understand the culture, for example, in like Muslim, iftar is kind of like important. I'm pretty sure if it's iftar, like where Ramadan, like for example, like fasting and whatnot, like those. If you're able to integrate like some of like those cultural pieces within the app, I believe it's gonna have like huge LTV. Because in South Korea, like that's actually how my parents met. Like they used like a dating company.
Nice.
So I mean, it's very common to do matchmaking in South Korea. So I mean, if you're able to identify that like need within cultures, then I feel like that's something that you could.
Realistically speaking, again, I'm not a single man, but if I were to be single, I would 100% hire a matchmaking service, because I feel like I just don't have the patience. I can't really, I don't want to go in and, just find somebody. It's too much work. Like, the risk to reward and for me wasting time on that versus me just hiring somebody to do that for me, I would pay somebody a significant chunk just to do that, because it's just, I don't want to deal with it.
It's a no-brainer. Yeah, and I think there was like a dating coach. It's the author of How to Not Die Alone, which is obviously a very great title. But essentially, she talks about like utilizing. I think it's like the rule of 37 or something, where, for example, when you're looking for the best algorithm for hiring someone, is like you look at, there's like a certain sample size, and then you look at the first 100 or like the first 50. I'm like making up these numbers because I obviously I didn't retain the good information, but you take a sample size, and then out of all of those, you figure out, okay, this one's good, and then on the next like batch, you figure out anyone who's that person or better, and then you choose that person. That's like the best like algorithm essentially for finding like a good match, because you need a sample set of what the range that you should be looking at first off, and then as long as you see someone good, and then on the next batch, as long as it's them or better, then that's going to be someone you should test.
I think there is a huge opportunity in creating AI agents for every single person's personality / their brain.
They're already doing that.
I mean, I think Bumble, Bumble is doing that. Right. Yeah, I did see it, but I haven't really used it. Have you tested it out?
No, but I know for a fact they based upon your exact profiles and your because AI is able to spot things that you might not even know about yourself. So your blind spots, so it's able to utilize your preferences and then see potential fits that you might not even have considered. So I think that's at first I thought this is like crazy, but if you kind of think about it, I feel like that's where the puck is kind of moving to, you know?
I think most people, unfortunately, are horrible when it comes to, you know, choosing their partner and choosing a partner.
It's the most important decision.
It's the most important decision in your entire life. It changes it.
Rather than you, like if you look at how like the time chart of who you spend time with within your life over an 80-year time span, number one's obviously you. Next is partner.
Yeah.
And then it's coworkers.
And you're gonna become like an average of the person you're gonna, you know, end up choosing.
Oh, for sure.
So imagine just choosing someone random, or like worst off, just choosing a partner every like 2 or 3 years,
Right.
all with different like, you know, like bad things,
Right.
holes that are open. That's why it's not working out. And then all those negative traits you end up accumulating, and then you just kind of turn into a person who just, I don't think you're supposed to be happy. It is better to be single for a very long time until, you know, you find the right one, rather than trying to take the shards from, you know, every other wrong person that you kind of see out.
And I feel like, especially, I don't know if it's like our generation specifically, but we have so many choices. Back in our, like, in our parents, I feel like essentially the constraint was such a good thing. Like, for example, in India, like we talk about how there's arranged marriages.
Yeah.
Like if it turns out that arranged marriages has happier satisfaction rates compared to people who are able to choose their partners within actual marriages.
Yeah.
Because if you look at marriages over the time span, it leads to a 50% divorce rate. So
Yeah.
whereas like arranged marriages, like although let's say like it's like the honeymoon phase, maybe the happiness, like the mood aspect, it's like not as high in the beginning. Over time, it like kind of balances out, or even higher than like people who choose their partners, mainly because, again, like it's the constraints, it's the culture, you can't really escape.
I mean, you got to run relationships as companies. Like that's kind of like what they truly are. I mean, it's kind of like a co-founder. I mean, if you have to make sure, hey, this person's emotional needs are set. Otherwise, the company itself is not going to run. Otherwise, this thing's going to break.
Okay,
so
I feel like we gotta put a caveat on that, because I did hear some Bay Area like Indian kids who like I've heard that they have KPIs with their parents for emotional intelligence. And I'm like, all right, okay. We gotta be careful with like where we're going. Of like, yeah, it is. You could run it like a company, but like, you know, a fun company. You know, it's a non-profit. Let's say it doesn't have to be making money. It doesn't have to be fully optimized. 'Cause, yeah, you gotta be careful with that. Running KPIs at 8 years old. How many Kumon worksheets have you finished? You know what I'm saying? So
I hear you. And again, I sometimes do end up going, you know, more towards the right like hand side in terms of like, hey, let's just all just date like robots and stuff. And again, I am like, you know, like, you can't let me out into the world with these ideologies. That's the thing. Because again, I do, realistically speaking, I think it is better for us to be, you know, dating non-humans and actual humans, and then do artificial insemination with gene mixing.
Yeah, and I feel like also like, you know, it's a feature to not be perfect. I feel like that's, you know, if you're dating like robots, I feel like humans, you have to figure that out. I feel like that's a skill, like emotional intelligence. You know, that's something that you kind of build with, you know.
But so much talent I see is lost due to, you know, things that don't really matter. Just imagine where us as humanity would be if we didn't care about all the stupid stuff and stupid uncertain stuff that happens and ruins like some of the smartest peoples in the world, like their lives, where they're not able to, you know, make the impact that they were going to be able to make initially.
What are some examples? Like, are you talking about like farmers who are never like discovered, but they could be like Elon Musk level, they just don't have the opportunity? Or
No, I'm just saying, I think being in a relationship, I do understand that, you know, sometimes you do have emotional instability because of the other person. And again, realistically speaking, if you are able to program the other person to make sure that you still get the soothness from a relationship without the emotional instability, so you're actually able to focus on progressing within the world and progressing on, you know, actually improving this little rock that we're on. I mean, just imagine, I mean, like 8 billion people, imagine 8 billion minds. No matter, I mean, I understand like most people are not very smart, but still, like, you know, all you need is a handful of these guys to have their problems removed. And I mean, they would progress so much farther.
Right. I mean, I'm just thinking about Elon Musk as you speak. Remember, I think her name is Ashley St. Clair or something, who's like asking Elon Musk for $20 million in child support. And like the baby's like not even born yet.
Yeah.
I don't know if the baby is born or not. And I was like, that's just like wasted energy, you know? I feel like, I'm pretty sure like I heard something where Elon Musk's like time value per second is like like a $300 million or something in Tesla, because like every decision he makes is like such a needle mover, you know?
Yeah.
Because the enterprise value of Tesla is like, is it a one? I don't know if it crossed $1 trillion, but it's exorbitant. So any decision he makes is gonna be literally fluctuating, you know, potential like hundreds of millions in revenue, even billions, you know?
Yeah.
As a leading EV technology, and like you have like drama of like 7 different women, like, oh come on Elon, like I just need a few $1 million, you know, why are you not at home, you know, like talking about those, you know, family matters. I personally can't imagine having like 7 wives, but what are your thoughts on, you know, the Elon Musk method of well, the crazy thing is he frames it as if like it's a good, like he's like saving humanity, because he's like, yeah, I'm dating like 7 women. It's like, oh, I'm not polygamous. I'm like, I'm doing it for humanity. He just reframed it.
So I have a very interesting take in terms of this. Okay. You remember Genghis Khan from the movie, from the history books?
You're comparing Elon Musk with Genghis Khan right now? I like it.
So basically, again, the dude has so much power. And again, genetically speaking, why do we come on this earth? Like, let's say, remove every other external factor. Just think about it. Like, as genes, if you were just genes, what would we want to do? We would want to spread as much of ourselves out there, just so there is a potential match with us being with a more fit gene. And it's surviving.
That's what we're coded for doing.
Yeah.
Which is disseminating our genes.
So realistically speaking, if you do have enough resources, why not just spread your seed everywhere? I mean, isn't that the genetic goal for you to win? Like, how do you win? So you come on this earth, without anything else. Like, everything else is just built by society. It's all fake. But at the end of the day, if you are able to succeed and have, a certain amount of wealth where you are able to afford various different, children without, the headache and stuff.
Right.
Why would you not do it? Because genetically, it's a win-win for you.
Right.
Because your gene pool is always going to be like, hell yeah, you were a winner because you left your gene pool out on this earth to, basically survive. You got another lifetime.
Well, I'm kind of thinking about, there's a certain term where women choose men that are higher in status. I forgot what the term was called. It's not. Is it polygamy? No, polygamy is no. Poly's multiple.
Like multiple.
There's a certain term. I'm sure the treasure.
The treasures know.
Yeah. where women always try to date upwards in status, and because it has worked out for them in the past, right? Like for example, like if you're a farmer, you would. I mean, as long as like the men could provide resources, essentially. Yeah. Like that was a good indicator that it provides stability for future children, and then so that they could kind of prolong. Essentially the gene pool. So I feel like in that sense it does make sense. I feel like maybe like I feel like I do have like some conservative tendency of like monogamous like relationships are good, but yeah, I mean if you have abundant resources and you could take care of them without the headache, of course, then it makes sense that you could like disseminate your your seed to as many as possible, because you maximize your chances for having offsprings, let's say.
Yeah, and I think realistically speaking, you can easily do this in a test tube as well. It does not need to be, like actual uterus.
Right.
I think this is going to be a lot easier for, successful people if you do have like, enough resources and, your gene pool is good. Even though, some of these guys might dilute and like decrease our genetic diversity if a lot of people do end up doing it. Right. But realistically speaking, for me, I don't really care. I have one life. I'm not going to make that big of a difference. So I think, again, if you are able to, have, a million different, versions of you who are able to, like, continue the legacy going, I think it is, I actually don't disapprove, because, again, there is still, like, we are only on this earth.
Yeah.
Like, there is a very realistic possibility that within the next 100 years, maybe after we die and stuff, we are going to be an intergalactic, species. Like, it is possible for us to go to Mars.
Right.
Like we just need to figure it out. Like again, it's just taking time. And again, that's what I'm saying. If we didn't have all these relationship problems, we probably would be at Mars already. And again, it would be like so much farther ahead. But I think overall, again, Mars does need people. Like I mean, at least we need a nice, like smart gene pool of people over there to like potentially survive. Are you gonna make a huge difference? I think Elon Musk is just doing that as a PR stunt. What he truly cares about is like, he probably read a book from Genghis Khan, and he's like, yeah, like I probably want to do this because
Keep in mind, he did read the encyclopedia at a young age. I don't know what type of autobiographies he was reading back in the days, but maybe you're right. A lot of sci-fi, a lot of, I don't know, maybe emperors, and it's like, yeah, you know what? That lifestyle's for me.
It's just a win. I think it's a genetic win, even though in society it might not look like it. Genetically, it's a win if we're considering it just we're just genes. Like,
right.
Okay, I mean, if you were just a primitive, like if you were in the animal kingdom, are you gonna be a winner or not? Like, if you put your seed, like multiple, different females, and you kind of have them out there, you're kind of like. I mean, with lions, one lion has like a herd of like different females until the other lion overthrows him, kills his kids.
Yeah.
Right. Just so, and he's killing the kids because he's like, fuck yeah, I don't want these gene pools.
Right.
Yeah, I mean that's kind of my vision over there, and I do believe there's a huge opportunity in terms of genetic engineering, and
sure.
I mean if one of you guys trenchers are interested in that.
23andMe, but like a little bit better, just like a 23andMe. Like plus or something, just like because they went bankrupt.
Damn.
Right? Well, it was 23andMe. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
But if you could make like, I don't know, like 23 or like 24andMe or something, like you could just rebrand it. Like I believe the data was already bought.
Yeah, I mean that's even though they went bankrupt, they still got paid because they sold all of you guys' data.
Right. So I mean, yeah, for sure, genetic engineering. There's genome editing, CRISPR gene editing. I think it's phenomenal of like what it could do, and with like GPT, like being able to predict like I think like 3D proteins. There's definitely going to be some exciting news going on there. Because I mean, what I saw, like I think Google was trying to map out the entire neurons of a mice, because once we are able to figure out like how the brain works, it's kind of like understanding ourselves, our brain better. Because I think they were able to map out the exact like neurons of like this one singular. Like it's a eukaryote, but now they're kind of scaling it larger because it requires more compute. But once we're able to do that, we're gonna hopefully figure out some more interesting things. But super interesting stuff within the biotech, high risk, high reward type of space. But super like it sounds so crazy.
Yeah,
I feel like if you're able to do gene editing, like a company that are able to literally manipulate your genes or even store your genes, or like the thing you were talking about.
Yeah, and again, one thing whenever I talk to people about this, sometimes I just go into the jacuzzi and talk to random people about gene editing, and then they're like, we have a doctor in this building, and we kind of have a good debate in terms of that, and he's always like, yeah, but like you don't know the effects that like changing one gene is going to have on in the long term. But my counter argument is that, so is it better just to not fix a problem because you're scared that it's going to cause other problems? And I mean, that's kind of where like, I come in, where it's like, hey, if we have problems in the future, we can always figure it out. But I feel like it's just, if we don't do anything about it, like that's a problem, because you're not fixing anything. You're just letting the problem go because you're scared. And like as an entrepreneur, one thing I'm never is scared. I can't be scared. If I'm scared, I'm dead.
Yeah. I'm just thinking about maybe the repercussions of like what the doctor was thinking was probably within the realms of like ethics more so.
Yeah.
Right. Of like, I mean, if we did have super genetic, like you could literally edit your genes to be the superior. It's just gonna be a race to the bottom of like who has the best, like prompt engineered genes, right?
Yeah. I mean, shouldn't it be like that though? Like, wouldn't you want the best human beings to
think about it? Like the difference between animals and like humans is like animals, like wolves don't get mad at their prey for like like for just being who they are, like, but humans, like, we have comparison, we have like different like emotional intelligence, I feel like, compared to like like the wolf, like if it doesn't eat it, it's not gonna eat, right? It's like the nature is in harmony in the sense that it keeps an ecosystem going, whereas like humans, like if we don't get our prey, we're like, oh yeah, like that was a horrible customer, like we start like blaming the prey, let's say, just for like an analogy's sake. But like I feel like that's a feature of the human species. But I feel like if we're like editing or like gene editing the entire like the genome of like who we are, I don't know. I feel like everything will be so homogenous.
I think my counter argument to that is that, again, in the next 10 years,
Yeah.
we're going to have artificial super intelligence anyways,
Yeah.
where, you know, like AI is going to be smarter than human beings.
So
It's
what
going
are
to be able to
their
learn.
going to be then?
I mean, that's kind of the thing, right? I feel like it's just we either have to merge with them, merge with ASI and make ourselves smarter,
Yeah.
which again, we can do that by editing our genes and making sure that, hey, we're at least, you know, like on par with this, or we're going to get left behind. We're going to be inferior species and potentially get taken over eventually.
That's terrifying.
Yeah, I don't think it's terrifying. It's just, you know.
Because we're human, and we're essentially saying there's going to be a better, smarter intelligence of this potential thing, or this thing we call like what's it called, AI.
Yeah.
Who are gonna eventually wipe out the human population because it's not aligned with our goals, or if we don't serve a purpose to its goals.
Yeah, I mean, realistically speaking, I mean, like I've already seen, especially with AI. I mean, you've seen unemployment is like skyrocketing. Cars are driving themselves.
We're seeing humanities actually. We were talking about this a bit earlier. Art history majors and like humanities are actually increasing in employment. We saw that STEM majors do make more. Keep in mind, but in terms of employment rates, like. STEM was I think it was like specifically computer science was actually lower compared to art history and I believe
What?
and philosophy. Yeah.
What the heck? Why?
I could provide the receipts. I believe we're not talking about income. We're just talking about unemployment.
Unemployment.
Yeah,
Got it,
just
got it.
employment. Because I guess like humanities is important. Maybe
Yeah.
I don't know like for what jobs
Ethics
specifically.
or something,
Yeah, it
yeah.
could be like ethics, like AI governance. I don't know what specifically, but philosophy. Like think about. I believe Peter Thiel was a philosophy major. I mean, obviously this is not correlation, causation is correlations, but also the founder of Palantir was also a philosophy major. So I'm sure like you do learn a lot from philosophy of like just
Yeah.
how to like have structured thinking, and I believe that is a pretty important skill. But I mean, as long as you could, you know, provide some type of skill set that society knows but just doesn't know how to get yet. Putting Naval essentially. Like I'm sure, like you could be employable.
Yeah.
It's just like there's certain jobs. I mean, there's like certain majors where it just doesn't make sense. Like I feel like no shade. Not like I feel like for example, like gender studies is that gonna like move the needle in our society? You know what I'm saying? Like
I think you're going full Elon mode on us. Elon and Donald Trump right here. I mean, like,
there's two genders. There's two genders. We're coming out. Didn't want to make this like an all-in podcast now, like of making it a politics show. Let's kind of like rewind the conversation, like to reel it back in. One thing I wanted to share was kind of like an article that I was reading earlier this week so there was essentially two economists. I believe their names were Zidar and Zwick. Big shout out to those guys. Not sponsored or anything, but from 2000 to 22, they were able to get IRS data, tax IRS data, to figure out what is the top 1% within America. Try to guess what percent is, you know, typically.
are we talking like what? Job titles or?
Just income in America.
Like what's it? Like top income?
Yeah, of 1%. It depends on cities, but we're talking about just U.S.
Man, that's a hard one. I'm gonna assume $50 million a year.
No, it's 500K.
What?
Yeah,
Oh my God!
you could.
You can easily do it.
Yeah. So America. I'm actually just
500K a year.
500K.
There's no way. I mean, top 1%. I always feel like, oh, top 1%. But I mean, just think about it. Like, I mean, you're at like Goldman or something. You work for 10 years. You're making 500K.
It's over 500K actually. It's
Still, like, I mean,
yeah. It's around 787K as of 2024.
Are we talking post-tax or pre-tax?
It just says salary wise, just income earners. So I'm assuming that's like
Pre-tax?
yeah, that's pre-tax.
That's insane. So basically, if you're in finance, you work for 10 years, and like you start running some people's portfolios. And again, you don't even need to be at like a big crazy firm. You can easily be top 1%. Like it's, geez,
Yeah.
we're that close?
Yeah. Some crazy insights I wanted to share from this report essentially was from 2000 to 2022, business income share of top earners' income grew for top 1% from 30.3% in 2014 to 34.9% in 2022. So just think about like the income share of top earners' income. So it kind of talks about how capital accrues to the top 1%.
Yeah.
Like think about the value captured like within the past like 40 years. It's all like America, within America, it would be like the top 1%, right? The top 10% usually gets the most because they own a lot of the business itself.
Yeah.
For top 0.1%, it went from 37.3% in 2014 to 43.1% in terms of business income's share of top earners' income, like income growth. So the key vehicle that this IRS data showed was that a lot of these people that were filing the taxes, their key vehicles was through S corporations and partnerships. So essentially any flow-through entities. And their typical profile from the IRS data was 20 million in sales and around 100 employees. So what are we actually talking about? So specifically, there was 3 founder profiles that this Wall Street Journal article that I was reading showed. Number 1, his name's David McNeil. He's the founder, or he's the owner of WeatherTech. He started with importing car mats, he took a second mortgage, and now owns jets and real estate. Literally car mats. He does hundreds of millions in revenue. Next, we got Derek Olson, built a niche business on school carpet. White carpets? They have 8 miles of carpet apparently, and these kids are like I don't know, they're drooling everywhere, their snots are falling down. It's a recurring business because they need carpets. In public school, think about how dirty public schools are. Great business. And then we got Larry Fleming, shifted from burgers to beer distribution. He had a Wendy franchise. Are you kidding me? Built 64% of Oklahoma market share from beers.
That's crazy. That is insane. Insane profiles right here. So basically what you're talking about here right now is that no matter everyone's talking about, the shiny objects, hey, new MCP servers, new just AI chatbots, let's go ahead and start this agency, let's do this, SEO agency. Most of these people, their profiles are built on boring businesses.
Yeah, the title of this is called Steady Wealthy.
That's insane.
That is a beautiful clickbait. That's what we gotta be. We're trying to get into the steady wealthy with manufacturing, with purchasing something that's maybe, whether it be pest control, whether it be a CPA firm, I don't know, whatever boring business there is, it works. I mean, Derek Olson, I'm just looking at it. His business is literally machines that rip out commercial flooring. Like it carpets in school. Revenue, 50 million annually. Backstory, he built a wealth in his niche industry, a few outsiders thinking about flooring removal equipment. So that's what he did. He figured out that elementary schools have over 7 miles of carpet and replace it often due to wear and hygiene issues.
That's insane.
Next, let's kind of deep dive into these specific ones. WeatherTech. Essentially, David McNeil, he founded that high-end car accessories, mainly all-weather floor mats, do extremely well. He built this within Illinois, and he literally raised the revenue up to 800 million in annual revenue. He dropped out of college, he sold luxury cars, and by selling luxury cars, he was like, oh, what do these people need? Oh, there's a huge need for luxury car accessories. Think about how within our phones, did you know that all of these people who were who made a lot of money were also people who sold accessories on top of phones? I think it's $1 billion market.
Yeah.
Because exactly. Because the wearable market, I mean,
ride a wave.
Yeah, just riding a wave that's already climbing. Started WeatherTech after noticing superior floor mats during a trip to Scotland. And then obviously he took a second mortgage to import his first container of mats. Made in USA branding, distribution dominance. WeatherTech sells D2C through car dealerships and in retail. And then last but not least, it's the LDF sales and distribution. He's a beer distributor for Coors, Miller's, etc. And he was formerly a Wendy's franchise owner, and the revenue he was making was around 250 million in annual revenue. So back in the 1970s, he started Wendy's franchises and he expanded to 43 different locations. And then after doing so, he pivoted into beverage distribution and sold fast food business in 2017 for over $50 million.
Pretty insane. Pretty insane. I feel like it's a different pocket of the world that we never talk about.
100%. And I think, obviously a lot of if you go to a really Ivy League, you're always sold kind of the venture capital kind of model. You have to innovate to make money. But for sure, think about every day, like actually calculate what you spend money on, whether it be like HVAC, like you're spending on utility bills, all of those where it's like you're paying on a recurring subscription. Those are crazy businesses.
I mean, one quick thing. I know in like My First Million, they kind of talked about it. Hey, like some of these businesses, they're great businesses, but they're boring businesses.
Of course.
A boring business means a boring life. What's your counter argument to that?
My biggest counter is I say don't chase your passion, because passion could come right after you. Like first, you gotta get your first nut. Like for example, like PayPal. That was essentially Elon's first nut, and now he gets to use all of those winnings
to build rockets.
Exactly. His true childhood passion.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you first need I feel like financial freedom, and you don't really have freedom, especially when you're chasing your passion, unless you have the skill sets of actually monetizing your passion, whether it be like you're extremely passionate about like a certain hobby, creating like a YouTube channel or like selling a course on it. I feel like realistically speaking, you should find like boring businesses, and then you could also put innovation on top of that. Like let's say you're really into programming or building CRMs or building whatever software that may be. You could innovate on top of the boring. Yeah, exactly. So that in itself could be, as long as you're passionate. So I feel like boring is an excuse for like doing something that's flashy, and I fall into it. Like my feed, if you go into it, I'm sure there's like 10 different shiny objects right now, but I just gotta be committed. Just do the boring stuff now for like a couple years, build up the experience, like the technical expertise of actually looking at financial statements, being like the Warren Buffett, like building like that keen eye. Obviously it doesn't, like Roman Empire wasn't built in a day. It literally takes days, years and years of compounding, just never giving up as well.
And I think you're the top 1% of people to kind of think of that, because people our age,
right,
they're like, oh yeah, I want the quick money, right. I'm gonna try to do this. Oh well, how much can I make tomorrow?
Yeah.
And like no one truly understands that it just takes time. You just gotta relax.
It does And you have to just go at it continuously. And like, for example, by hanging around like other successful people, whether it be like at gyms like Icon, at Icon Fit's, like the gym that I've went to, also like just going to Erewhon or like wherever like these high like net worth individuals are that didn't inherit but like actually have businesses or are high income earners.
Yeah.
A lot of them have just been grinding like just on that one craft, for a very long time, where the game in itself becomes exciting. In the beginning, it's super boring because they're not excellent at it. They're not, good at the game. But once they understand the rules of the game, it gets fun. The game of winning, I feel like, is much more better compared to like just like the short-term dopamine of like chasing the passion.
I think you just gotta learn to love the game. That's the thing. That a lot of these young guys, they don't want to like the game. They just care about the end result.
Right.
At the end of the day, it's not about the end result, because you're going to spend most of your time trying to play the game rather than enjoying the winnings.
Exactly.
And that's why a lot of people, when they sell their companies, they get depressed, just because they're like, oh, like I didn't realize. I totally thought I was doing it for the win, but I was actually doing it for the game, because I just love the game.
I remember hearing on the I think, what's his name? Hampton. He has a podcast called MoneyWise, where it's a funnel for Hampton.
Yeah.
And one of the founder of Loom was talking about how he had serial depression right after the sale. Yeah. I don't know if he made 50. I think it was like around $50 million.
Yeah.
And he could have made even more if he continued staying. But he's like, I just didn't want to. Like I thought it was a good time to sell, and then I got depression because that was my identity in a way, right?
Yeah.
He started very young as well. So yeah, I mean, I feel like the journey is like, as long as like you could stay in it and then begin to appreciate like the suffering of it, and then make that kind of joyful. Also, like I feel like that also goes back to what we were saying earlier about the people that you work with is really, really important.
Yeah.
Because I feel like that just like inspires. I feel like that's why in SF we have so many talks within the money Twitter space of like people saying move to like, if you move to SF, like things are so faster here.
Yeah.
But don't go to SF to like, just meet cool people. If you're not doing cool stuff, like it's not gonna work out for you. You have to be actually cool, like shipping stuff or actually be interesting for those opportunities to come to you and like to actually build genuine connections. But definitely like who you work with, I think, and the project that you work on is very, very important. And I feel like it's one of the most important decisions right behind the relationship, because again, that's who you spend a lot of time with. You're spending a lot of time with coworkers, so better than straight you find like people that you want to work with and for a very long time, because compounding is the seventh wonder of the world.
It sure is. I mean, wow. I mean, we went super deep in terms of, ideologies of trenchers. And, again, we also did get a little bit lost in terms of, gene editing and, about the future of human race. Like, of course, every trencher always does. But overall, had such a great time. And I think, David, what are your goals for this upcoming week? Let's go ahead and start doing this segment.
Yeah, I love it. So this week, just continuing, I'm studying for the FAR. I think it's like financial accounting and something else. It's a FAR. That's what it is. It's gonna take me around 180 hours of studying. So gonna be making some substantial progress on that. And then I'm not doing so much outreach to loan originators and brokers because this is my main priority.
Yeah.
And then kind of figuring out from here how I could kind of transition into the role of FP&A, which is financial planning analyst. And essentially that's like the track of being a CFO. And I feel like at that, like if I have the skill sets to do that, once I find a boring business where they don't maybe have like the financial acuity, it's a value add like on day one. So
yeah,
kind of figuring out that plan. It's going to be my week one plan. So making some substantial progress. Let's try to clock in at least, I think probably around 20 hours of studying. So
nice. I mean, that's very, very exciting, and I do believe this is a great path, just because you're going to go in right with some actionable things at the end when you are going with the acquisition. Because I mean, if you have had experience in something, again, it's just, you are already the winner. Like you win just by plugging yourself into, a business that doesn't have a winner like you. So, stuff on my end. I am going to be starting my first test of Facebook ads for hire. I'm going to be, probably using some static creatives, very low budget, trying to use, probably target ROAS or, make sure that I'm capping my cost per acquisition, just to make sure I'm not losing too much money. So lots of testing is going to go over there. New landing page is basically out, and we're going to go all into, t-shirts specifically. Next thing I'm going to do is look a little bit more into the machines for enterprise clientele. Another thing I'm going to be doing, of course, is, the day-to-day maintenance of, print fits, a lot of customer service, a lot of the, other random stuff that comes up, and of course, follow up in terms of B2B leads. Another part of me is kind of thinking that maybe I should, restart a cold email campaign to print full clients. Because while I'm waiting for a lot of these B2B, people to come in, let's say by Q4, I do end up, working with a couple of these. At the end of the day, I think B2B is going to, I'm not just going to work with one client just because it's just going to be very, not very diversified. And I am going to need more clientele just to diversify this. And I feel like this could be a good time for me to, start to at least, learn to diversify or build relationships that are eventually going to turn into business. So that is one thing I'm also going to be starting. So, a little jam-packed week ahead, and, very, very excited to see what the next steps are going to be. Thank you so much for you guys for tuning in. We had a great time together. And trenchers, go ahead and build some great trenches. Go get lost in your mind and go build the next big thing. Let's do it.